Hello and welcome to Seireite Talk, the podcast where we discuss anything Bleach related. I'm your host, Commander General Koro, and joining me today is my lovely co-host, Mango Surprise. In the last episode, we addressed plot holes left in Bleach by Tyke Kubo himself, and in today's episode, I will be interviewing one of my favorite YouTubers, ClydetheWeeaboo. The link to his channel will be in the description below, as always. But without further ado, why don't you introduce yourself?
What's going on, guys? My name's ClydetheWeeaboo, Australian anime YouTuber that talks about Bleach now and then, so that's about it, really.
Now, the reason I wanted you on the podcast is because my knowledge of Bleach is very extensive. Audrey can second that. You're like one of the very few people that can rival my knowledge, if not surpass it. And I know that sounds very arrogant, but like I've dedicated almost my entire life to this series, just learning about it. To the point
that's understandable, because there is a lot of YouTubers who talk about Bleach, but they don't actually know the ins and the outs of it. So I can understand your point of view with that. But yeah,
one of the things that I don't know, I guess my knowledge does is it can make sense of certain things that shouldn't be in the series. Like, for instance, how can we break the chains of hell? Obviously, not easily. You know, if Kokuto couldn't do it in Hellverse, something like that.
Is he even canon though? Like, is that
Kubo...
so? That's why I'm kind of confused, because like when Hell was introduced into the series at the start, it came across to me as somewhere like you don't want to fuck around in and stuff, and there should be enemies in there that are, you know, beyond captain level and like top Espada and all that shit. But they just really didn't expand upon Hell that much. Like, it was very lacklusting, because it was basically like Hueco Mundo is more dangerous than Hell is. It's you just got these invincible enemies.
Well,
like, that's about it.
The main thing about Hell is the enemies can't die there, obviously. You know, they're just reborn. That's part of their punishment. In Buddhist culture, in Buddhist religion, it's called the Nakara realm, or the Nakara Preta, which is like you spend time there based on your karma. It's basically just the cleansing. Whereas in Bleach, it's eternity. So it basically goes off of the Christian religion there in that aspect.
I know in the Bleach universe there's like multiple realms and stuff, like the Beast realm, and then you got Hell, and then you got the Seireite, and then you got Earth and all that sort of shit. So I suppose, because I think I remember someone made a video talking about how comparable it is to Buddhist religion with all the different types of, you know, like afterlives and stuff there is.
It's actually heavily inspired by Buddhist religion. Like, a lot of people think, oh, it's Hindu, but it's actually Buddhist. The Kushinada are the guardians of hell, which I love the Kushinada design. Like, it's just something about like their giant skulls and then the spines just connecting to their legs and stuff. But yeah, let's talk about the how powerful the sinners could be. Obviously, Kubo said he wanted to do a Hell arc, which in my opinion would have been phenomenal. Like, absolutely phenomenal. He said he wanted them to be the French, which
could have been I think it was either going to be French or Latin, because, you know, Latin's very heavily tied into stuff like I don't know, Christian, but like it's a lot of things to do with Lucifer and the devil, and sort of it's a lot of that's written in, you know, really dodgy sort of old language. And it's I think Hell would have been a great arc, because obviously it's something that was hinted at the start of the series. And if we were to see Bleach's version of what the devil would have been, which I assume he would be overpowered as fuck, and then you would have had, you know, like actual demons and stuff, which would be honestly, like if we had been given a Hell arc after the Quincy stuff, that everybody on that side would be like Ukiura second release and then above. Like, that's how overpowered all those guys would be. So if you can just imagine that. And like at the same time, I'm kind of thinking, like, I wonder what the whole motive of the arc would be, because there would need to be something which isn't cliche, like, oh, it's another rescue arc or something like that. But I would have read it regardless, because I just think that would have been cool. And one thing which I would have loved to see is that Grimjow, like, on their side because he was on their side at the time. So if we had had Ichigo and Grimjow doing like a Vegeta Goku thing going into hell together, that would have been absolutely insane.
Oh, I'd love that. That'd have been incredible. Yeah. But like
there'd be so much shit talking.
Yeah. Oh my God, what?
Glorious.
But you said that they'd all be captain level, if not higher. I 100% agree with that because like all you can really do is train in hell. You know, like your entire.
I mean, hell in general is supposed to be scary, and like it's not somewhere where you go for enjoyment. So like anything that's in hell should be strong enough to restrain pretty much anybody.
Yeah. My friend and I actually have a theory behind the chains of hell, which contradicts with the movie, but it makes sense as to why, like, Kokuto and the others couldn't break their chains. It's because the stronger the sinner gets, that's how strong the chains get, you know? So
that goes hand in hand, really, because, like, obviously hell's meant to keep you there, so there's no way it would want to break. I think that whole concept was really silly because he was such a filler enemy, the main guy in the Hellverse. I didn't find that really interesting at all. And the way that they just milked the Vasto Lorde form because it came out in the anime around that time. That's basically all the movie was for, just to use the Vasto Lorde to get people to buy tickets to see the movie. And the whole thing of Hell was way too undermining. It was way too just like it wasn't impactful enough considering how serious Hell would have been in the Bleachverse. Like if you went back to the early 2000s when Bleach was like super dark and the animation was really cloudy, and you remember the old and the really dark OSTs.
Yes.
Like just picture Hell, but with that animation and those OSTs, like it would be dark as fuck.
Honestly, the one thing I hated, this is a little off topic, but the one thing I hated about the anime was always like the censorship in it. Like I guess the biggest example that I have is in the Fullbringer arc when Kenpachi fights what's his name?
Basically the butler dude.
Yeah, Kutsuzawa. He just cuts him in half. In the manga, they show like him splitting apart, but in the anime, they do a silhouette and then a red backdrop.
Yeah.
And
it's like with Grimjow. Like remember when he walked into those two Fructione and he fucked them up.
Yes.
Like, in the actual manga, I'm pretty sure he I can't remember what he did, but I know it was gruesome. Yeah.
And Seireite just flat out point blank Seireite the other one. That's what he did.
Yeah.
Which, beautiful, beautiful. Kubo really does have a gorgeous art design, though. Like if you really look at it, like I'm rereading the final arc right now. Like right where Yama fights Yuha and he's fighting Driscoll, and Driscoll uses Chojiro's Bankai against him, and Yama just like brings his blade up and it incinerates Driscoll.
Yeah, he's like, "What the fuck's this bitch?" Like,
yeah.
I just forgot what I was gonna say. I was gonna say Bleach could easily have been a seinen, I believe, if it had gone down that route, because there was a lot of dark aspects to the series which weren't really expanded upon because of how I don't know, like Shonen Jump has their whole thing where they want it to be like they want series to be made a certain way, have the main character act a certain way, have the plot go a certain way. So there's a lot of things in Bleach which we didn't really get to see what it would have been like because the editors changed a lot of things, and even Kubo said the same thing. Like he basically didn't even want to really write the manga in a lot of situations because it wasn't his story essentially.
Yeah, that's some things we address like that in the second episode of the podcast. Yamamoto using Itokasu, the Hado 96. Itokasu against Aizen. Was it the fake Karakura Town arc?
Mm-hmm.
All right. It basically doing that halved his power. Like that's something not a lot of people understand. Like when they say, "Oh, Yuha demolished Yama. There was nothing he could do against him." Not true at all. Like I don't think people understand how powerful Yamamoto really is.
Was it ever really stated that like he destroyed his arm to the point where that took an effect? Is it ever really stated like that? Because I got the impression throughout the manga that the reason why he wasn't as strong as what he was in his prime is just because of old age. Like even Yuha said the same thing. Like I think if Yamamoto did destroy his arm that badly, because that's like for people who don't know, the spiritual pressure receptors are in your wrists and stuff. So that's what you were saying, Cole, about how yeah, when he did the Hutto, he basically like it sacrifices parts of you because to use that technique you need to have a burnt part of your body to like the ashes, and yeah, I don't know, but he was healed in that arc too because he still had his arm, but I got the impression that it was because of his old age that he wasn't as strong as he was in the original war.
Well, when he fought Yuha the first, well, no, I take that back. When Yuha killed him, he put his foot on Yama's head and said, why didn't you let that girl heal you? You would have like been better if you would have just let her heal you, but your arrogance got the better of you. Something like that. I remember him saying that.
Regardless, I think he still would have lost anyway because Yuha just, I know he had too many slippery banana fucking things up his sleeve to pull out.
It's sad to say that, but it's the truth, you know. Yamamoto's my favorite character. Every time I talk to someone about Yamamoto, they're like, "Oh, he was such a wise old man." He really wasn't.
No. Yeah.
No, he was like a World War II veteran that was like, he's like, I ain't fucking changing nothing. You know, it's my way or the highway.
Yeah, he thought very like irrationally, very sporadically. You know, like when Orihime got quote unquote kidnapped. He was just like, nope, not going after her. You're not going anywhere either. And it's like, you're not gonna, you know, try to help someone, you know?
Or, you know, he could have worked with Ichigo when they were in Karakura Town, or he could have, I don't know, actually fought at the start of Karakura Town and took out all those fucking... He could have one hit KO'd pretty much every single one of those Espartas, like nothing. Like, Stark wouldn't have been able to do anything, neither would Halle Bell. They would have all got just roasted.
Oh, yeah.
Literally.
Definitely. Especially if he used his Bankai, I'm not saying, like, that was a good enough point to use it. However, I am saying you could have done that instead of sacrificing your arm. You know?
Yeah, that was just stupid, honestly. Like, if it had been written to the point where he just went in there and did something like that, it would be realistic and appealing because you'd be like, oh, well, this is practical. This is what someone with a brain would actually do in that situation. You'd have the head captain go in there and take everybody out, or you would have had, you know, all the captains work with him at the same time because they could have just ran through all those Espartas like it was, you know, a field day.
I remember Kubo stating in an interview, like, if Shunsui would have activated Katen Kyokatsu Kuromatsu Shinju, then Aizen would have died. Like, with that. But
he didn't say that. He said that Shunsui would be one of the people who could have gone up against Aizen, and the problem with that is if he activates it, he runs the risk of being under the hypnosis, and then if that doesn't work, and it turns out that he didn't actually hit Aizen and he hit someone else, that's guaranteed death for the other person that he hit. So it was like he just said like if Shunsui wasn't lazy, he could have been a big factor in the war.
Bruh, I never thought of it like that.
Because you know, like there's so many dudes who thought, oh yeah, my ability's got Aizen. Like Shinji thought he had Aizen. Nah. Who else? So many dudes thought that they had Aizen, and they're just like, no, because you're already under his hypnosis. He checkmates you.
That's I don't want to get into the crossover battles because that's something completely different. That's something that you specialize in with your anime fight night videos, which oh, that's what got me into you. I'm not even gonna lie. But like it's the truth. The only way you can have, I mean, this is gonna sound really stupid. But the only real way you could counteract Kyoka Soigetsu's control is if you had. Do you remember the princess arc, Shusuke Amagai?
Yeah.
No, I don't. Well, that was filler, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was filler.
Yeah, I don't know. I legit don't care about the filler. Not so much in a rude way. It's just like I don't know because it's not canon to the story. I'm just like, oh, anything that happens, it's not relevant. And then I always have kids in the comments of my videos saying like, oh, well, what about what Muramasa could do? What about what Ichigo did in this arc? Like, I can't include that because it's not canon. Like, that would be like me because when I did the Sasuke and Ichigo video, there were so many things in that which people were like, why didn't you include this that Sasuke did? Because it's filler. Like, I can't add that.
Yeah, but like it's bullshit to say. That's why I'm saying it. But the only way you could use it, the only way you could counteract Kyoka Soigetsu is if you had the Bakoto that Shusuke Amagai had, which shut down Zanpakuto. You know.
Yeah, I still want to know what Aizen's Bankai was. Like, it's crazy that we didn't even get to see it.
Like, in the final fight, that's the one place you'd expect it to come in, you know?
Yeah, honestly, like that's when you know that Bleach was rushed. Like that is just a slap in the face. It's as clear as day that the series was rushed because if that fight was written like a couple of years ago, that would have gone for like maybe 10, 20 chapters. That
Oh,
fight because
what?
the like look at the Mayuri fight with what's
Pineda.
his name Pernita. Yeah, like that went for fucking ages, and
I
that wasn't
know.
even a main fight. So like people who say, "Oh, it's just Kubo's fault," it wasn't. The series literally got cut in half because Shonen Jump wanted to get rid of Bleach and move in all these new series like My Hero Academia and Black Clover. They're just it is so clear, and then you have all this lead up throughout the whole arc, like, oh, Ichigo's got this secret ability that no one knows about because he's the one of the only Soul Reapers that doesn't have a specific ability to his Zanpakuto. Like everybody has, like, you know, maybe a hypnosis, a water ability, something weird. Ichigo's was just like a brawler type. He was more of an Espada. That's what Halibal said. And we didn't even get to see what that was. Yuha specifically cut his sword in half twice so that he couldn't use it, and then we didn't get to see what it was. So what was the ability?
Just gets to get. I mean, when he first used his Bankai against Byakuya, it gave him speed, but even Grimjow said, "Oh, it just gives you average speed," because what a Bankai does is it boosts all of your attributes by 5 to 10 times. Now, I'm not saying that's what it does with Soiphone, because hers is a giant fuck you missile.
Yep.
But it's just like one of those things, like, what could it really be? Obviously, you have your Getsuga Tensho. That's more like a Sero than anything. But then at the same time, a lot of people speculate, oh, it could be water-based.
Yeah, that's what James said because you know, like the whole rain stuff in his world.
Yeah.
Which my thought when he made that video, I'm like, you know, how could you use rain? But it's like because his Bonkai is speed related. That's he gets physical attributes.
Yeah.
Maybe like what happens is he activates his Bonkai, it rains, and he can like flash from every water drop, and that's how fast he is because you'd be borderline untouchable.
Bro, that'd
So
be dope as shit.
that's what I believe it would have been. It would have been something like that where it rains and he can just teleport from one to another.
And okay, Yuha stated in the final battle that Ichigo's Bankai was so like scary that he didn't want him using it, so he jumped into the future and broke it. But like that confuses the hell out of me. Like after Tsukishima fixed it, wouldn't we get some glimpse as to what it actually does? You know?
Well, that's the thing. That's what I was saying before, right? We didn't even get to see what the ability was.
Yeah.
Ichigo has always had a Bankai, which is more like a Resurrection, because he only gets physical benefits to it, whereas you know, Byakuya has got his, you know, the million blades and stuff like that, and Aizen got Kyokusei Getsu. So I don't know what it could have been. Like, what could have been that scary that could rival something like changing the future? So I've got no idea what it could have been. Like, if it's anything like Ishin's, which I doubt it is, because Ishin could only use his for 15 minutes, so they're obviously different. Otherwise, I don't like Ishin would be one of the strongest characters in the series if it was anything like Ichigo's supposed Bankai.
That's another thing we were supposed to get was Ishin's Bankai. You know?
Oh, we didn't even get to see the holy armor. Like, what about Yoruichi's holy armor, the household weapon that she had? Like, they talk about it, and then she never even uses it.
It's like Kubo really. We should have talked about that in the second episode. Audrey was just like how Kubo brought in all these different items, such as like the Shihoin armor, the Reishi armor that Ryukin and Katagiri had.
Ryukin didn't do shit though. Maybe if Ryukin had actually done something, then we might have seen it. But he just
I think
showed up
it was it was gonna just be like a the showdown with Aizen where everybody was gonna fight Yuha, or Yuha was gonna use the Yamamoto's Bankai to resurrect all the people that he'd killed in the war, because he could resurrect all the Shinigamis that he killed, like the original captains from back in the day. So that would have been
okay. Real quick, to take a side note away from the podcast, usually I talk about. I know my prediction for like the final battle, which I still think this would be way cooler than anything we got with the final battle, was like all 5 war potentials meeting up with Ichigo to show down with Yuha. You know?
Yeah, that's basically what would have happened.
That would have been so freaking amazing. Just like Ichigo, Aizen, Ichibei, Kisuke, and Kenpachi just throwing down batshit crazy. Benihime, Adarame, and all of them.
Yuak would have been having a sweaty time dealing with all them,
Bro,
for sure.
what? Like, for real. Even with the Mimihage shadows, like, there's no way he could overpower someone like Kenpachi and Ichigo and Aizen all at once, you know?
And then you got people like Grimjiao in the background too, who's just as fucking deadly. Could have had by then he would have had a second release. Then you got Nell, who probably would have had a second release too, because she's pretty damn strong. Yeah, I don't know. Like, people really underestimate how strong Grimjiao was, because when he came back, he was like Ichigo's full-bring Bankai wasn't actually that much stronger than Holification. It was just like, I don't know, it was like maybe 0.5 stronger, because he could do big Getsuga Tenchos. But we seen Holified Ichigo could do things that were on the same level as that Bankai, and Grimjiao was in that tier. Like, he would have shit on Ginjo if they had a fought. His resurrection would have destroyed Ginjo.
If he would have even needed to go Resurrection.
So, like, imagine then you got the time skip of 2 years where, Grimjiao obviously got stronger because he one-hit KO'd Kurge. And, on top of that, if he had a second release, he would... I don't know if he'd be as strong as Ukiura, but he would be somewhere in that range, and that's impressive, so...
Mm-hmm. He definitely... Okay, that's actually something I want to talk about, is everybody thinks, oh, Ukiura has a second release, he's stronger than Stark, There's a reason Stark's number one. And
Stark's only number one because of how much spiritual pressure he has. Like, he's not actually that impressive. People overrate that so much. Like, I'm not sure if it's legit, but there was something I heard ages ago that Kubo apparently said that Aizen knew that Ukiura had a second release. So, there's that, but it's at the same, like, Ukiura's physical speed was stronger than any of the Espada. His destructive capabilities were stronger than any of the Espada, and he could regenerate all of his body. He would legitimately slaughter Stark and Hollywell.
You think? Wait, what about Baragan?
Yeah, I do. No, Baragan's the strongest, hands down, because his ability is just, you can't do anything against that.
Thank you. I wanted to, like, cut that real quick. It was because, like, everybody's like, oh, Stark could beat Baragan in a heartbeat. I'm like,
how though? How? Like, his arrows would vanish. His arrows would just vanish.
Yeah.
Thank you, bruh.
Like, it took so much dicking around with all these high-level Kidos just to keep him in one spot before he would make all of them vanish. It was like, he would have gotten out of there eventually. He was stronger than all of the abilities. It was literally plot armor that killed him.
Mm-hmm. It was Hachiken's ace in the hole. I can't remember the name of the Kido, but it was basically just that transportation Kido that, Tessai used in the Turn Back the Pendulum arc. Basically, just at a smaller scale.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, people want to ask, like, oh, who's actually stronger, Baragan or Aizen? I mean, obviously Aizen is.
Oh, Aizen, he like, Baragan knew from the start he didn't have a chance. That's why when he died, he threw his like sword at him. He was like, yeah, I'll get you, Aizen. No, ain't gonna happen. I think if they had to send Ukiura to Katakura Town, he would have fucking turned shit up. Like, it would have come down to the point where Yamamoto would have had to step in straight away to deal with him. Otherwise, that's it. All the captains would have died.
Yeah.
Power struggles in general. We saw in the fight with Grimmy versus Kenpachi that if your spiritual pressure is high enough, your opponent is going to do little to no damage to you. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
When I argue with people that say Yuha is obviously stronger than Aizen, the one thing that I have to say against it is, no, he's not. Why? For the simple fact that he's still affected by Kyoku Soigetsu. If Yuha were...
That's such a... Like, I remember Aizen said, he's like, oh, it doesn't matter what ability you have. If your spiritual pressure is higher, you can negate the effect. It's like, that's so inconsistent, because if you took away Kyoku Soigetsu from Aizen and he had every ability except for that one, Yuak would have still better feats than him. Like, his physical strength is way stronger than Aizen's.
I don't know
his speed is like he's got like 2,000 years worth of even more than that worth of strength. Like he's up there with Yamamoto, and we've seen how strong Yamamoto was. So you're basically just dealing with another Yamamoto with different abilities. So Aizen is a guy who relies so much on tactical based abilities, which is why he's so hard to deal with. He's not a straightforward fighter, which is why when people put him against people like Goku and Saitama, I'm just like, well, these dudes, they're physically strong and they're really fast, but there's not much you can do when you're getting checkmated by an ability. It's like a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! You can't do anything against an ability that negates everything you have.
Yeah, you can't do anything against a trap card.
Mm.
You just activated my trap card.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's just one of the, that's one of the bullshit things in Bleach, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of bullshit things in Bleach, but that's one of the biggest things, is that, if you're strong enough, you could just flat out say, fuck you to the opponent's ability, But, back to the topic of sinners. I'm sorry for doing just a giant 180. Do you think it would be possible for the chains of hell to be broken?
By what, though?
By... I mean, obviously an outside force, but for a sinner...
Be more specific.
Let's go Vasto Lorde, since we've seen that.
What, you mean someone in hell breaking out and then entering into the verse? Something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Depends on who's in hell, really. If it was... well, here's the problem. If Yuark is in hell, that means he has chains attached to him that specifically are stronger than him, so he's not going to be able to get out unless an exterior force breaks the chains, the same way that, that dude in hell wanted Ichigo to blow away the chains because he needed someone else to do it who was stronger than his chains. So unless someone that's strong... Okay, let's say that, Satan does exist in the Hellverse and he decides to break Yuhal's chains, then there you go. That's about it.
True.
I think that other than that, they're stuck in hell. And plus, it hasn't been expanded upon enough to give it that much of a heavy impact in the story.
Yeah, that's one thing that I actually never liked when because in my free time I like to read OCs that people make for Bleach and give corrections on, say their Zanpakuto's in a different language. Obviously, the Zanpakuto for a Soul Reaper can only be in Japanese.
Yeah.
Same thing for an Espada, their Zanpakuto can only be in Spanish. But, when they say their race is a demon...
Well, that's not entirely true, actually, because if you think about the Bleach universe, and we compare it to the real world, there would be people from countries like Australia, the USA, China, and they would be going into... And when they pass on, they would be going into, the Seireite.
Soul Society, yeah.
So, and I assume they would have a Zanpakuto that is allocated to something which... it's in relation to them. So, because there's so many different, we've seen a dude with an afro, so he's obviously, I would assume he's from the USA or he's from some sort of black-related country. The afro dude that. Yeah. So, even though his sword was Japanese, you could find a sword which is based on something which isn't Japanese. So,
I don't doubt that at all. It's just the main focus of what we've seen. Usually if you create your OC, they're going to be a part of the Japanese Seireite because that's all we've really seen and expanded on,
Yeah, and the Soul Society is very heavily impacted by that, because that's what it's based off, the Shinigamis are Japanese, the Fullbringers are American, the Espadas are Spanish.
Exactly. But, when they say their race or something like that, there's only a set amount of races we've seen in Bleach. I'm not saying there could be more, but until more are revealed, you can only make your character within that set amount. And when somebody says, oh, my character's a demon, no, they're not. There's no such thing as demons in Bleach. Not
that's... yeah, even Kenpachi isn't a demon. Yeah. Human, technically, but, he's just really, crazy in a sense. Yeah, I think that part's pretty silly, but when it comes to saying, I want my character to be American or something like that, it's fair enough, that's what you want your person to be. Plus, doesn't really matter at the end of the day because they're not canon to the story, so it doesn't really matter.
Oh, that's another thing. Man, when they say, oh, my character's best friends with, Gin Ichimaru, I'm sitting there no, he's not. They would have shown something of
No one's best friends with Gin Ichimaru. He's way too scared.
Fucking... I can't remember who I was talking to. I think I was talking to Ryan and James. Or, no, James and Ryan and James were in a live stream together. And they were talking about, Gin could have been, brought into Zero Squad because of his strength alone, and I was like, not sure. How you
that's pretty sketchy because he did get fucked by Eisen pretty fucking fast. Like, it only took one hit and then that was it. He was done. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm on the fence. His ability was strong, but he didn't have like all the other factors. Because if you look at someone like Nimaya, oh my god, that guy was so fast and he took out like the Wind so easily.
Dude, like, wait, was it Nimaya that took out the? I thought it was
Yeah, no, he did because he flashed over and hit him.
True.
I'm pretty sure it was him because he no, or it might have been Pernita. I know he stuck his sword straight through one of the people because he teleported right in front of them and then put the sword straight through the because they were all wearing like cloaks.
Yeah. How fast do you think the Zero Squad actually is? Because a lot of people like to compare him to Yoruichi, saying that she's the absolute fastest character and nobody's faster than her.
Nah, she's not fast. She's not the fastest by any stretch. Look, if we take it for face value, the speed of lightning is 200 and something thousand miles per hour. I've already did the math that Vasto Lorde is 4 times the speed of lightning. So any character in that league has to be somewhere above that. Like, so I don't know if Nimaya represents lightning speed. That was his whole thing. That's because he's one of the fastest characters in the series. So I don't know. I'd say he's got to be somewhere up there with how fast the Vasto Lorde was for sure.
Oh, definitely. That's actually. You know what? Fuck it. We'll do one crossover thing real quick. In your opinion, who would win? Kizaru from One Piece or... you know what? Let's say Nimaya.
Kizaru. Because you can't hit Kizaru. Yeah. He's intangible to the absolute max. I mean, unless he hits him with, like... maybe there's a Keto that could probably hit him. Because, you know, it's still energy. His body is made of light. So there's a possibility there, but... For everything else, unless it's someone like Eisen, because specifically Eisen would be good against Kizaru because he would trick him into not using his Devil Fruit. He'd make him think that he's using it, but he's not, and then he could just cut his head off.
Hey, there you go. Eisen's the trump card against everyone, though. Like,
no, he was just made to be stupidly overpowered.
Yeah. Like, even against someone like, I don't know, who's the strongest... Let's put Shanks in there. Shanks is the strongest. One of the strongest characters.
Well, we don't even know. We don't even know what Shanks can do. Like, if he said someone like Whitebeard, he could beat someone like Whitebeard.
Yeah,
for
definitely. Sure. The anime fight nights. You said before the podcast started, the biggest request you get is Madara versus Eisen. I don't want to sound like a crazed fan, but I am going to ask, like, what's the progress on that?
It's I think I'm about like 5 or 10 minutes through the video because I've been super busy with a lot of things, but I'll eventually get it done. And I've scripted a lot of the things to make sure everything's somewhat spot on because I don't want to mess anything up in the video. But it should be a good video once it's done. That's definitely for sure.
Will it answer a lot of questions?
Yeah, it'll definitely put the debate to rest because what the best part about this is that Madara is one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite anime characters of all time, and I'm also a big fan of Bleach. So this is it's not going to be biased. I actually really like Madara.
That's one thing a lot of people like, because I get asked that debate a lot, and a lot of people think, oh, he's called the Bleach Wiki. A lot of people, he knows a lot about Bleach. He's obviously going to be biased to the series. You can't look at things biasly. Like, to the Narutards and the Bleach, I don't know what would be the bad term for
Bleach tards.
Yeah, Bleach tards. Like, you can't pick favorites. You can say, oh, he's my favorite, but that's about as far as you can go. Like, Whitebeard versus One Piece. Whitebeard versus Yamamoto. You could say, oh, Whitebeard's my favorite, but the instant Yama activates Zanka no Tachi, it's all over, you know? Like, that's, I don't know, crossovers are iffy for most part. Like Goku versus Superman. I know Screw Attack did like 2 things on him.
No, that video was cancer. It's so inaccurate.
But like,
I don't like those sort of dudes making videos on that sort of stuff because they're not actual fans of the series, which there's not enough passion for them to pay attention to little details. Yeah. Like if they did something with Ichigo, or Ichigo or just any Bleach character, I don't think I'd want to watch it because I'd cringe too hard.
I've constantly like tried to do Kenpachi versus Akuma with them. Ooh, have you like done any research on Street Fighter? or no?
Nah, because it's a video game, so it's not really that's not really what I want to compare those sort of things. Kenpachi versus Zoro though from One Piece is one
Oh,
will want me to do, so I'll eventually do that once the
Screw-
time comes.
yeah. Screw Attack did Zoro versus Urza, and they said Zoro would win in it. And I'm not saying he wouldn't, but I am, however, saying, like, with the amount of, I guess, swords that Urza could, what is it, summon?
Well, I mean, it was that one slash was like the equivalent to an atomic bomb, so...
Yeah, true.
Hmm.
But I still owe my buddy $5 for that shit. Oh well, he's coming over tonight, so I'll give it to him.
Just give it to him in coins.
Yeah, I'm gonna just give him like nothing, but I'm gonna give him like 5,000 pennies. 500 pennies. What am I saying? Anyway, back to Bleach, since we have to stay on topic. Have you heard of? I'm gonna ask this. Have you heard of the Bleach Amino?
On that anime amino app.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really into that sort of stuff. Like, I would maybe join it in the future. I had a couple people say to James, like, where's Clyde? Isn't he on the app? And I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I've been turned off those apps because there was these matchups like Ichigo versus that dude from Tokyo Ghoul, Kaneki, and they're like, yeah, Kaneki would win. Like, they voted that Kaneki would win. I'm just like, what is this bullshit? This is cancer.
It's all fan stuff. Like, they don't look at it logically. Like, oh, this is their powers, abilities, and personalities. That's but more so like, oh, he's my favorite character. Of course he would win.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem that I have when people do crossover battles with people from Bleach is, oh, the Bleach character will win because the opponent can't even see him. That's not true. They have to have spiritual awareness in a crossover battle. You have to.
I hate that argument so much. It's the same thing as like, oh, fucking, yeah, Goku doesn't have chakra, so Genjutsu doesn't work. It's like, why would you want to handicap a character? Like, if they're going to fight, that means all their abilities are going to work.
Yeah.
How stupid can people be? Just use some common sense. Yeah. The only reason they say in the Naruto universe that, people with chakra are affected by Genjutsu is because everybody in Naruto has chakra, so that's just the way the world is. Like, they're speaking in their own terms. If it was like, I mean, I'm sure Genjutsu would work in the same way where it would distort your spiritual pressure or something like that.
Oh yeah, no, there's no doubt about it.
It's such a stupid argument. And people say, oh, well, no one could see Ichigo. Like, did you only just watch episode 1 and now you think you know everything about the series?
Yeah.
Because that's what I used to say when I was like 15. I'm like, oh, well, they can't see Ichigo because he's a spirit. It's like, no.
Yeah. I used to say the same thing, but then I actually thought about it. I was like, well, it is a crossover battle, so technically chakra has to be the same as Ryatsu. And obviously,
you don't
Naruto
want
can
to handicap that shit.
Yeah, no, that's just stupid as fuck. Like, Goku, Saitama can't see, I don't know, Renji, because he doesn't have spiritual awareness. He has to have spiritual awareness. Nobody gets that. I feel like we're doing an actual political debate. No politics in this episode.
Anime politics.
Yeah, for real. I saw on the Discord for the Bleach alternate series thing. Was it Eisen that posted that picture yesterday? It was like, how long were you under the impression that I was not your president? And it was a picture of Eisen. I was like, I'd vote for Eisen to be president. He obviously knows what he's doing. He'd kill a lot of people to get it, though.
Exactly. Yep.
That's something that I want to address. Yuha, in terms of being a protagonist or an antagonist, what really defines him as such? You know?
Be more specific.
Like, in the last chapter, the very last chapter, he said, my goal was to unite the 3 worlds so that no human being would be in fear of death. So they could all live in harmony.
It's a very silly point of view from his, because he's basically doing what Madara tried to do, where he was mollycoddling the world, just like, oh, it's okay, I'll look after everybody. But if anybody, disagrees, he throws a tantrum. So he's everything he wanted to do was bad. That's for sure. Like he was forcing his own views on people who didn't agree.
Yeah.
He was obviously like he was in denial. He thought that he was the one that was going to fix everything and all that sort of stuff. But he was actually the problem at the time.
That but like his end goal was noble. That's where it like varies for me. You know, like he wanted to be like, oh, everybody will live in peace and harmony if the three worlds collide. But I killed a shit ton of people for it. So does his end goal make him a protagonist, or does the acts in which he did to reach that end goal make him an antagonist?
He's still an enemy because he was killing people like it didn't even matter and stuff. So
yeah.
he talks. I mean, he could have. In an ideal world, he could have somehow made good terms with the Shinigami or something. Like, I don't know, but then there's always the argument that, like, well, the Shinigamis killed off a lot of the Quincy's, so I know it's hard to say. I don't agree with what. Yeah, I don't agree with what he wanted.
No, I don't 100% agree with it either. But I don't know. At the end of the day, antagonist and protagonist are a point of view. You know, and it's still a theory thing. You know.
We're always hearing the story from the Shinigami's point of view. So I mean, in the beginning, it was like Ichigo is the protagonist, but then now it's the Shinigami are the protagonists when they used to be the antagonists. So it's just all the point of view we're seeing the story from. If we had been seeing it all from, like, say, Uryu's perspective or the Quincy's perspective the whole time, we might have a different like view of how we.
Yeah,
how the story
yeah, that is a good point. That would have been weird to see things from like the Quincy's perspective. Like maybe if the story focused around Hashwell from when he was a kid up until then.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah, I'd have loved to see a little spin-off like that. That'd have been amazing. But like, okay, that's a fight. Speaking of Hashwolf versus Uryu. That's a fight that a lot of people wanted to see, but it just ended up being a lot of dialogue. Like,
it was rushed. It was rushed. Like Hashwolf was going to be overpowered. I know he's so strong, but he just got all the stuff near the end. Just it's not even like really how the story was going to go. Because if you listen to what Kubo wrote for Shunsui at the end, he was speaking through Shunsui's character and saying how like you shouldn't rush an old man and stuff like that. So,
but like the part that I find, I guess, ironic, if you could call it ironic, was that Hashwolf goes, "Oh, you have the perfect counter to the almighty ability." But my ability is even more OP than his. It's like, what?
No, that was just bad writing and the story being rushed.
Yeah. Like, but even if you do think about it, Uryu definitely did not have the perfect counter to the Almighty. The antithesis would have just maybe scuffled Yuha, and then Yuha would have changed the future to where, I
think there may have been more to the ability. Like that's for sure. We did because like I said, everything was pretty much rushed at that point in the story, so we could have seen more into what his ability could do and all that. But I don't know. It's so hearsay, really, because there's just so many things that went unanswered, and that annoys me because the series finished off in such a terrible way.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
If you would have changed the series, like, what would you have changed? What would you have incorporated and, like, I guess, changed?
I would have extended the series by another 100 and something chapters because that's how much time it needed to cap everything off. It would have closed all the things that need to be talked about and stuff. I would have a lot of the fights that should have happened would have happened. And I don't know, it would have been cool to see the whole Yuha thing where he resurrects all the Shinigamis that he killed back in the war, because we could have seen a little bit more into that. We didn't get any backstory to the original war. We didn't get to see the Holy Armor, Grimjiao second release. We didn't get to see Ichigo's Bonkai. We didn't get to see Isshin and Ryukin fight, which they were supposed to.
Yep.
So many, like the way that the Fullbringers were talking, they were talking like the manga was ending. It was almost like it was breaking the fourth wall, the way they were just sort of rushing everything. And then you had Yuha, who's like, if you want to beat me, come and chase me. Like that makes no sense. He was not acting like that at all up until that moment.
Mm-hmm. My theory behind, like, if you follow me, I will destroy you at the happiest points in your life. That fucked with me a bit when I read that. Especially, like, with the end of the final chapter. Like, you know how 685, the black Mimi Hage Reishi was manifesting in that central point. But then, like, Ichigo...
Yeah, he was. It was leaving the door open for, like, some sort of return with Bleach. In a way, it was kind of like, I don't know, things could happen. They could happen if he comes back, but no, that's basically been sealed, the deal with that. Unless the anime comes back and does really well, then Bleach is pretty much done at the moment.
I mean, technically the anime is coming back. Cough, cough, retro rhino, cough, cough, cough.
I know, but it's still not, legit, so it doesn't.
Yeah.
Honestly, look, I'm going to be so honest. Kubo's back on Twitter for the most part that we know of. He's obviously going to hopefully see it. Like, everybody, I'm going to tweet the shit out of Kubo when the first episode comes up. And I hope everybody else does, because that's something that Kubo needs to see. Hopefully he'll show it to like Studio Period or someone in Shueisha, and they won't sue Ryan because of it.
They're not gonna sue him. They'll lose more money than it's worth.
True. Like,
and yeah, there's a lot of things to indicate that it's gonna come. The actual head animator guy that worked on Bleach for quite some time said that they have plans for it in the future, but they just haven't really. They've been very tight-lipped about the whole situation. You've got the light novel, which sold so much that they had to reprint it twice. You've got there's so many things which factor in. Like, a lot of people underestimate how much potential Bleach has. The biggest issue was that Shonen Jump did not even bother to basically advertise it at all. They were too busy with One Piece and all their small series, and they just threw Bleach under the bus.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's one thing I didn't like. Like, don't get me wrong. One Piece is a good series. It's a wonderful series. I've seen numerous fight scenes from it. I've seen numerous regular scenes from it. It's a great series. But the reason it's so big, and James even refers to this in one of his videos, is because of how much Shonen Jump pushes it.
Yeah, they're beating that horse to death. That's for sure. You look at Japanese culture, for example. They're very influenced by Western stuff. Like, they find a lot of Western things very entertaining. The JoJo's Bizarre Adventure author really liked a lot of music. Even Kubo liked a lot of American music. If you look at One Piece, it's about pirates. Pirates isn't a huge thing in Japanese culture. They're more surrounded by stuff like ninjas and Shinigami. Like, Shinigami are very heavily into it's a big part of their what's the word, like mythology and stuff like that. So it's not really that interesting to them, swords and all that shit. It's like if people made a story about kangaroos, I wouldn't really care that much, because it's just like, it's Australia. Like, I know enough as it is. Yeah. So that's where One Piece blows up really big, because it's somewhat, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's Western, but it's definitely heavily influenced by the whole pirate culture that we grew up with as kids. And then you also have the Chopper arc. Like, the Japanese love cute little things. Yeah. So that's what really blew up the series.
It's, I don't know, but like you said, One Piece had a lot. I mean, not One Piece. Bleach had a lot of potential, like a lot of potential that was never really expanded upon. And I guess some of that could be blamed on Kubo's part. Like, I'm not saying, oh, Kubo's a freaking god that has never done anything wrong. I guarantee he's done some stuff wrong, and that's why the series got rushed. For the obvious part, but at the same time, Kubo did have a lot of potential. Kubo wanted to do things with the Beast Race. He wanted to do things with the Sinners. He wanted to do things with the Fullbringers. A lot of people hate the Fullbringer arc because of how little explanation we got. And I'm not saying it was rushed back in the Fullbring arc. I am, however, saying that could have been something on Kubo's part.
It's so silly from the fans' point of view, because the Fullbring arc was made to develop Ichigo. They bitched so long. They're just like, oh, Ichigo doesn't have any character development. He's so bland. And then they tried to dive into that and show that without Ichigo's abilities, he doesn't have a goal in the series, because you can't become the Hokage in the Bleach world. You can't become the Pirate King. There's no actual goal. Bleach is like, it's very straightforward with the story. Yeah. And then when they developed Ichigo in the Fullbring arc and showed that he had a lot of emotion, Tsukishima messed around with his head a lot to the point where he was going insane. And then they're just like, oh, well, it's just boring. It's like, well, what do you expect? There's not much Kubo can really do. He did not even want to introduce the Shinigamis into that arc, and he had to, because the series was just plummeting.
Yeah. I will say this about the Fullbringer. The only thing that I didn't like about it was that we didn't get complete backstories for every single one of the Fullbringers.
I really liked Riruka, though. She's one of my favorite female characters.
Who doesn't like Riruka?
So much?
Riruka
I like
is
she
bae.
had quite a sad backstory too with the way her things went, and she's also very attractive. So it's that.
Yeah, she's very attractive. I mean, the last episode. Hey, if you haven't seen episode 366, definitely recommend it.
Orihime is best girl.
No,
Right.
don't be jealous because I can do a better Orihime than you.
Shut
I love Riruka.
Orihime's voice actor again, Cole.
Huh? Who
Who's
got it
Orihime's voice
before
actor?
me? Who got it before me? Huh? Who even admits that I'm the better voice actor?
You're better at every voice except for Orihime's. That's the only thing I have. Don't take this from me.
Kurosaki-kun.
We should not include this on the podcast, but I'm going to anyway.
Why not?
Oh god.
Comedy gold.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Speaking of, like, we were talking about the 7th and 8th Kenpachi before the podcast started with The Spirits Are Forever With You. Supposedly the reason why Kenpachi wears that new eye patch is actually because of the 7th Kenpachi, the 8th Kenpachi. Like, you know how when he was fighting Noitora, he was releasing more and more reishi as he was fighting him, and then as he was fighting Unohana, it just like 100% broke, and he got all of his skills, including his Shikai. Supposedly, the reason why he needed that new eye patch was because of the 8th Kenpachi fighting against Zaraki. Like, it was doing the same thing that all of his other fights were doing for him. And I can kind of believe that, but at the same time, I don't want to believe it, just being like, oh, it's basically filler in the form of words. Because the 8th Kenpachi is so bullshit. So is
the light novels are, sorry, they're canon, because it's basically, extends on the story, but
I know a lot of people will argue that.
I don't know enough about it to really go into all the light novels. If I do get the chance to, I'll...
Yeah, if I can find the link for the synopsis of it, I'll send it to you. But, unfortunately, I feel like this podcast will be cut short because I actually have somewhere to go in, like, 30 minutes. So...
Well, that's fine. We pretty much covered a lot of things anyway. Thanks for having me on. It was interesting to talk about.
I'm very thankful for having you on. Thank you for agreeing to be on. Audrey, do you have any side notes? The last words? You didn't really get to speak much in this episode, unfortunately. It's enough of that. No. Riruka is best girl. For now and always. See? Clyde agrees.
Yep.
Correct.
But, anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna catch you motherfuckers later.
This is, of course, have fun, David Hunter. And as always, people,
I'm gonna have to find...
As always, people, have an awesome day.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to find an outro for this podcast, because it's not gonna be the same. No, I'm not gonna steal James's, because I'm not Alchemy on this podcast, you know? Anyway. Yeah. Make sure to check out Clyde's channel in the description below. I will also link the description to Ryan's Patreon, the Discord for the Bleach Alternate Series, the usual spiel, Ryan's channel as well, Audrey's channel, and, the usual links.
Yeah, go check them out. Go click all of them.
Yeah, like all of them. My Twitter, Clyde's Twitter. I'm gonna just, it's gonna be nothing but links. It's gonna be phenomenal. Anyway.
As far as the eye can see.
Yeah. It's gonna be on the horizon. Next episode, shipping. Goodbye.